And we're live.
Usual, Omer, say hi to the peeps.
Hey, what's up, Johnny? How you doing? What's up, people? How you doing? I hope you guys are staying safe.
Stay safe. It's a dangerous world out there, man. COVID might get you. Stay at home. Watch our podcast. That's the way to do it. Live at 8 o'clock every week. Before we get started today, just want to make sure y'all know to hit that like and subscribe button. We got a good show for you today. Lots of news around the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, and much, much more. So let's get started today with the NFL. Omer, we got some big news out of Indianapolis and Philadelphia. Carson Wentz going to Indy. Hit me. What do you think of this move here?
So this was something that we actually talked about last week, Johnny. Carson Wentz is now going to be officially an Indianapolis Colt. Now, we talked about it in terms of him potentially going for a number one, multiple number ones, like in the Stafford deal. That obviously didn't happen. But when you look at the haul that the Eagles got for him, they got a third-round pick in 2021. They got a second-round pick that could become a first if Wentz plays more than 75% of his snaps. And obviously, if you're an Eagles fan, I think you're probably content with what you got, because considering where Carson Wentz was last year, I don't know if there was another team as desperate as the Colts to get specifically him at quarterback than the Colts were. I don't think that there was a better fit for Wentz and fit for the other team than this trade. I think it checks a lot of boxes, like I said last week, but when I think about the big thing that comes out of this, though, I think, is that incentive that the Colts have potentially to not play Wentz for some games or not play Wentz the entirety of their games. I think that incentive is always going to be lingering in the back of their minds, because they don't want to give up a first round pick, right? You'd rather give up that second round pick. So I think that's going to be something interesting to see. Other than that, Wentz in that offense, Carson Wentz in that Colts offense, I think is going to be a good fit. I do think, though, the only thing that team is going to need is they're going to need to find another wide receiver one. If they find another top line wide receiver, if they potentially draft somebody, if they potentially trade for somebody, we don't know. There's going to be a lot of moving parts this offseason, obviously, even especially on the wide receiver market. I think that this Colts team is going to be like a contender. I'm talking about the level of the Ravens, talking about the level of the Titans, the Chiefs. Like, they're going to beat the Bills, powerhouse in the AFC.
Yeah, I mean, this Colts team is a ready-made winner. Like, this Colts team was good with Phillip Rivers, and I'm not sure that man could walk about 5 feet. So, I want to talk about like Jonathan Taylor. Like, they got a great running game. And that kid was a rookie. He was awesome for them last year. And they have a good offensive line. They got a good defense. You're absolutely right that they could pick up a receiver or two. There are a handful of good ones in this draft. Especially they're not giving up that first round pick for this year. And, we'll see what happens to Wentz. Maybe they don't have to give up that first round pick next year. If things don't necessarily, become awesome, you take a look, that's a conditional second. So what that means, if you take a look at the graphic we got up, that if he plays less than 75% of his snaps, it will stay a second round pick. But if he plays more than 75%, then it will become a first round pick. So that's a good way for the Colts to hedge their bets there on an injury riddled player. But honestly, the fate of the Colts rests in the hands of two men. That's Carson Wentz and Frank Reich, right? Wentz was great when Reich was the offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles when they won a Super Bowl. Obviously, Nick Foles was the guy there. They had Big Dick Nick behind him winning titles, but
Title. Let's not give him that much
title.
credit. It was title.
That's true. That's true. You're right. Wentz was an MVP candidate that year under Frank Reich. So
Yep.
if Frank Reich can get him right, then we'll see. We'll see what they look like.
For sure. I do think, though, and a lot of people are calling this move by the Colts desperate, and we got blasted. We got like lambasted in the comment section last week on our Carson Wentz video, which was one of our most watched videos. Thank you guys for commenting and hating. But
Hate away, hate away.
yeah, hate away. We love it. It helps us anyway. But one of the biggest things I got back was that, there's no way Wentz goes for a first. There's no way in hell he's going for a first. And granted, the deal was for a third and a second, right? But that conditional first round pick, it's still most likely if Wentz plays the way that you and I both think he's probably going to play under Frank Reich. If Wentz is like who else are they going to start at quarterback? Jacoby Brissett? Unless Wentz goes down with an injury, that's the only reason. That injury guarantee could have helped the Colts, but again, you're still giving up a second-round pick. And what's that second-round pick possibly going to be if you have to play Jacoby Brissett in some games? So no hating on Jacoby Brissett. I like him as a guy. I like him as a backup quarterback. He's just, it's just proven he's not like going to be a guy who could win in the league consistently. And again, that's just reality. But I do think that Wentz in this offense, Wentz in this system, he's going to prove a lot of people wrong. Because the big knock that people like Max Kellerman, the people like, Rex Ryan, all these guys, all these pundits on ESPN, because that's all they have now. They're basically like the CNN of sports. Like they don't actually report on sports anymore. They just talk about it. They do what we're supposed to. Look, we're fans. Hey, we embrace debate because we're fans. That's what we don't have any real credibility, any real sources yet. But
Yeah.
for people like them to go out there and do that, they're just desperate for ratings. That's what it proves. But I think that he's going to prove all those people wrong. Dan Orlovsky was correct in his assessment that it was not Wentz's fault that the Eagles were trash. Was he partially to blame? Yeah, but when you don't have an offensive line, you don't have receivers that can catch, your top two receivers are injured, you don't have a consistent running back, your defense is garbage, and your coach is actively trying to get fired, I don't know a quarterback that could succeed under there, okay? I'm just saying.
Nope.
I think that Wentz got a lot of shit. And if they were to point any blame to Wentz, or if you want to criticize Carson Wentz for one thing, the thing you should do it for isn't necessarily his play last year, but his inability to stay healthy and to play 16-game seasons for whatever reason. He got injured, tore his ACL, had a little bit of trouble the next year coming back, got injured again, missed the playoff run there, got injured in the playoffs the following year. Last year, obviously, Wentz got benched for Jalen Hurts, so he missed some games there. So there is a concern, I do think, about Wentz and playing a full 16-game season that is justified. Now, whether or not the Colts are able to keep him healthy, I do think they are going to be able to because they have a good line. But it's also up to Wentz to not be as reckless with the ball because he doesn't have to be. You've got time in the pocket. He can stay in the pocket. That's going to be on Wentz. And that's the thing that we should hold him to account for, if anything.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Wentz's issues can be summed up with talking about the players around him. You talked about not having an offensive line, not having a running game, not having receivers, not having a defense, not having good play calling. Who the hell is going to win under that? What do you want him to do? I watched the quarterback kind of fight that same battle for almost a decade in Eli Manning. Everyone's talking about how terrible Eli Manning is. Well, between Ahmad Bradshaw and Saquon Barkley, who did Eli Manning have playing running back? That he had Odell at wide receiver, and he had a rotating cast of characters over on the offensive line, and a billion offensive coordinators and 3 head coaches between Coughlin and retiring. So, we've seen this script before, and we've seen quarterbacks who put up bad numbers turn into elite players when they're put in the right situation. Because at the end of the day, people like to think that the quarterback is Superman and that, he should be doing everything, but you run into the trap of relying way too much on your quarterback. There's a reason why the NFC Championship game is the Aaron Rodgers Invitational, is because the Packers never put enough talent around Aaron Rodgers because he's Aaron Rodgers. And they say, oh, shit, man, Aaron Rodgers is going to do it for us. He's going to get us there. Well, it doesn't work that way. And so you drop Wentz in a situation with a coach that he's comfortable with guys around him that can make plays, and where all he has to do is be a pocket passer and hit his receivers in stride, I mean, that's a winning formula. And if he can't handle that, then we can talk about whether or not he's an NFL quarterback anymore. But I think you're really going to see a lot out of him this year, and it's going to be very interesting. Another thing that I kind of want to pivot to is it's going to be very interesting to contrast him and another traded quarterback in Jared Goff, because you look at the situation that Goff is entering in Detroit, and it's a wasteland. I don't think I can name 3 players on the Detroit Lions right now. It's a wasteland of talent. You got guys trashing on Houston in the media, with Deshaun Watson and J.J. Watt. But Calvin Johnson, that man retired at 29. Like, let's not forget that. That man retired in his prime because he hated the Detroit Lions. So this is not the first time that we're going to see, good players get screwed over shitty team management like Wentz did in Philadelphia. And it's not the last time, as, we see in Houston. But when you put a good player in a position where he can win, good players tend to do well. That's why they're good players.
Facts. I do want to say though that I if I were the Indianapolis Colts, I probably would not have hedged a potential first round pick on Carson Wentz when there's a much better and probably cheaper option out there in one Gardner Flint Minshew II. There's no Minshew moment this week, but I do want to say, whatever team, and there has to be one. There's got to be one team that's willing to trade for this guy. Like, I know there's a few quarterbacks in this draft that are good, but look, come on, dude. He's like, forget it. Okay, if you're a team that's just trying to like sell some tickets or get some eyeballs on the product, dude, those mustaches will sell, baby. Let me tell you something. You want good marketing advice? Hire Gardner Minshew. But we'll see what happens.
maybe what the issue is just that the asking price is too high. If I'm the Jaguars, I'm asking for like 8 first-round picks and like I'm talking Hall of Fame level talent in return. Like, you want Gardner Minshew?
I might be the biggest Gardner Minshew fan in the world. There's no way in hell I'd ever pay 8 first-round picks for him. I don't care if he's the next Tom Brady. I'm not paying 8 first-round picks for him.
8, 9, 10. We're getting LeBron on the.
Yeah, I'm about to say, all right, LeBron. All right, LeBron. Maybe we should move on.
Moving on, then, real quick, guys. Make sure if you like the show to take a look down below, hit that like and subscribe, and keep the love flowing. Now, the NBA, we got some news this week, and really it's been the last few weeks with the All-Star Game 2021, just a few short weeks away, taking place in Atlanta, Georgia. We've gotten a lot of controversy around this. A lot of players have spoken out. LeBron has talked about how he feels slighted and lied to because the league told him that they were getting that week off and he was planning on being able to spend it with his family and recharge. And a lot of players have made similar remarks. Adam Silver hopped up on The Jump just a few short days ago, talking to Rachel Nichols and company about how this is a show for the fans and how this is the kind of thing that the fans need. But let's be real. This is not for the fans. This is not for you. This is for TNT. This is for Turner Broadcasting. This is for the TV money, for the bottom line. Because look, I'm not going to front with you, Omer. I don't mind that they're having the All-Star game. I get it. They'll be safe. It'll be okay. It's just another game. They've been flying around the country. It is what it is, But if you're going to have this, just be real with me. Like, tell me it's about the bottom line. Tell me that the cap, the salary cap is going to shrink by 25% if you don't have this game and do a couple other things for revenue, right? Tell me that. Fair. Just tell me that. Say, look, guys, we are a business. We love our players, and we will do everything possible to keep our players safe. But if the players got to play to make their bread, we need them to play because we got bills to pay, just like they got bills to pay, just like y'all got bills to pay. It's universal. Everyone got bills to pay. And if you like the product, you like the NBA, it is. We all got bills to pay. If you like the product, right, you have to support this happening. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to see the salary cap drop to 75 million, and I don't want to see players' salaries get reduced by 15 or 20%. So I understand the league has got to do what it's got to do, but just say that.
Yeah, that's more than fair. Look, I come down on actually two fronts because there is merit to the argument that that an all-star game would be good for fans, right? I mean, grant it's not enough to warrant playing the game for the reasons they're saying it, right? But I do think there's merit in there, and there's merit worth talking about because when you let's be honest, what have we been looking for the past year? We're looking for a kind of return to normal. I think the All-Star game is something, the NBA All-Star game specifically, more so than the Pro Bowl, is something that fans actually like to see. We like to see, the slam dunk contest. We like to see three-point contest. Have all the All-Stars, Charles Barkley, everyone together, right? And, I think that there is merit to saying that something like that for the fans is good. Now, is it worth lying to your employees? Is it worth lying to your players if you're the NBA? No, I wouldn't say it is, and I wouldn't say it's worth, having it, to be honest. Because look, if I think this is something that basically should have been decided on before the season instead of, it kind of being, propped upon them like just recently, right? This should have been decided before the season with the Players Association saying, hey, let's be real. If we don't, I just dropped the pen. If we don't have this game, then we're not going to be able to raise the salary cap. We're probably going to have to lower it. There's going to have A, B, and C impacts on the game. And they could have hashed it out, come to some sort of agreement, have the game, don't have the game, and the players understand it, right? But it seems to me and everyone else who's reporting on it that instead the NBA just kind of was like, oh yeah, we're probably not going to have it. We're going to, and they never specifically said in writing, they never specifically said outright that they were not going to have it. They kind of hinted towards that, and that's what I'm assuming the players and the Players Association went with. Maybe the Players Association didn't even have a real say in the matter. That's likely the case, but you're muted.
I do know a little bit about that. So apparently, it was Chris Paul and the Players Association who had been who they okayed this, right? Because it's not getting past anybody at the Players Association. If they say, no, we're not doing this, then it's not happening, right? But it had the support of Chris Paul, and it had the support of the Players Association. So really the interesting thing is what really happened. Because I told everything that you just said is 1,000% right. You need buy-in from the players because you can't just drop all your stars in a city and say, fuck you, go play. Like, the stars are the guys who get to make these decisions. Like, you can't do things without running it by them. But where was the breakdown of communication between the league deciding they wanted to do this and the Players Association okaying it, but then not telling the players? Like, I don't understand.
I mean, look, it's to be expected because the NBA at the end of the day is they're a large corporation that's only concerned with their bottom line. Look, are they better than the NFL? Of course. Are they better than the MLB? Emphatically. But
Fire Rob Manfred.
We'll talk about that in a little bit. But I will say this. I do think that they probably should not be having this game. Like, if we're being real, there's really no real reason other than the money to have this game. And if there was no player support behind it, and Chris Paul and the leadership of the NBA Players Association just kind of went along, then I think that's kind of failure from the top as far as the Players Association goes. And there probably needs to be some sort of reform there, because look, you can't have that big of a communication breakdown with your Players Association head and your players. Like, that can't happen. If a majority of the NBA players literally do not want to play this game and they feel like they're being forced, then it's on Chris Paul. It's on Chris Paul, and it's also on the NBA. I don't want to shirk them of their responsibility. They do carry responsibility for this. And look, this, I know, we're getting very comfortable with everything because the vaccines are coming out, and people cases are going down, and people are getting a little more comfortable. But remember, guys, we were going down in October. We were going down by a lot in October, and then what happened? Thanksgiving came around. Christmas came around, New Year's came around, cases skyrocketed. Our worst up until I think November was 1,000 people dying a day. We were consistently having 4,000 people in the United States die every day from COVID just a month ago. So we just got out of one of literally the worst of this pandemic, and hopefully the worst of this pandemic. So look, we're already playing the games. I get the argument that it in a long term, they're playing 72 games. It doesn't really matter because they're going to be around each other. But to have those many people around each other, I do think that it is it lends itself to kind of self-explanation. It's going to be a shit ton of people next to each other. It's going to be. I hope they don't invite the legends or anything like that. I assume they won't. If they do, God help everybody. But I personally, I don't see the need in it. Dude, have a 2K tournament. It's 1 year. You're still gonna get views. You're still gonna get views. I want to say this too, by the way. The NFL Pro Bowl this year, I actually tuned in and watched it. It was a 4-on-4 matchup between the AFC and NFC, and the teams were hilarious. On one side, you had Deshaun Watson, Derrick Henry, and Snoop Dogg. And then on the other side, you had Marshawn Lynch, Bubba Watson from NASCAR, and I believe it was Kyler Murray. And it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. It was one of the most damn entertaining things I've ever seen in my life. I'm not going to lie. Hearing Marshawn Lynch and Snoop Dogg's commentary on 2K is great. And then watching them play 2K against each other, it was great. Marshawn Lynch broke his chair. Yeah, do that. You want eyeballs on the product? Make Marshawn Lynch play 2K. I don't care he had nothing to do with the NBA. Bring Marshawn Lynch in. Let him commentate. Bring Snoop Dogg in. Let him commentate. Make it fun. You're never going to get a chance to do something like this again, right? In theory. But they're going to go forward with it. I don't want it to happen, but hey, I don't make the rules.
Well, let's get to the fun part about it. We got two big storylines that came out of the starters votes. One was the shock of Bradley Beal. This is not my opinion. This is not fan opinion because obviously the fans love Bradley Beal. But he said that he was shocked to make the All-Star game and that he was humbled. So first off, hats off to Bradley Beal. I got a soft spot in my heart for DC. I know, Omer, you love DC. So let's get a little love out to your boy Bradley Beal and those Washington Wizards. They're pretty trash this year. But
he's balling though. He's balling though. Regardless, he deserves it.
Let's get this man in a real team.
Please.
But baller out. Congratulations to Bradley Beal. And the other is the atrocious snub of Damian Lillard. I do not understand what Damian Lillard has to do to get respect in this league because I just Luka Doncic is a great player. This is no hate on Luka Doncic. He's an all-star. But we're talking about the starters. The Mavericks.
What? Oh,
yeah, they're not going nowhere. They're not going nowhere.
Come on.
That's a middle of the road team. That's a middle of the road team.
It's not about the team though. It's not about the team though.
But the
Blazers, not about the team though.
The Blazers, without Yusuf Nurkic and without CJ McCollum, are winning. The Blazers are what? They're the 4 seed in the Western Conference. They are winning. They are a good team. They don't even forget about being a good team. They're not really even a good team. I would give them the same, but they're winning because of one man and one man only, and he's a bad man. He ain't Aaron Rodgers, but he's a bad man, and that's Damian Lillard. So he's an all-star starter. I just don't know what to tell you.
I mean, look, I'm not gonna make the case for him not to be an all-star. Look, the starter thing, I get on a personal level why Dame would be upset about that, and you know what? If I was in a situation, I might be too. But I think when we're talking about who got snubbed and who's rightfully in there, we shouldn't ignore the fact that Luka Doncic got a shit ton of he's had a shit ton of production. Luka Doncic is averaging damn near 30 points a game. Luka Doncic has almost a triple-double. I think he has 8 rebounds and 9 assists a game. We shouldn't ignore this. He's shooting damn near 48% from the field.
All right, I got the
Like
stats for you. I got
we
the
shouldn't.
stats for you.
One second. Let me make my point. You want to bring up stats? I know the stats. I know this.
Yeah, you
Luca
know
is
the stats.
playing. Luca is playing like a beast. Luca is dominating. All right. Now, is he winning? Is his team winning? Right, not right now. No, they had a rough start to the season. They're trying to get things back on track. They've been dealing with some injuries, dealing with some problems. But I do think that Luka Doncic has earned his spot as an all-star starter. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And look, the players obviously disagreed with that, and then that's the players. Now, if they want to fix that, maybe the players' vote should have a little more sway than the fans' vote. I that could be a
He
fix, but
more than double the player vote. He was like 58 to like 160 something.
that's that. And again, Johnny, that's fine. I'm not saying that Luca deserved it more. I'm saying that Luca deserved that spot he has to begin. Like I'm saying that specific spot he has as an all-star starter. It's not on Luca that he didn't deserve it. It's more so you can make the argument that Dame probably might deserve it more, but even then, can you really ignore 30 points, 8 rebounds, 9 assists a game? It's like he's balling, man. He is
He's
balling,
balling. It's no hate on Luca. It really isn't. It's just that
we
Dame's
also
a bad man.
and that's fine. That's fine. But then we also need to, I think, shift the conversation to what does it mean to be an all-star starter? Is it kind of is it a popularity contest? We know that it probably is. And if it's a popularity contest, then I think that, yeah, Dame should probably get it. But if it's strictly about production, which I think is less so personally, I mean, then Luka, I think, has made the case he should be a starter. But
I'd say it the opposite way. That
What?
popularity
No.
contest means Luca gets, because that's what it is. It is a popularity contest. So Luca got it. But
Well, Luka got
production,
it because of the
I'll
fan
give you
vote.
that it's even. I'll give you
Ah,
that the production's even. Like I don't think either is like head and shoulders above the other. But I just look at the Mavericks and I see a team that's, decent and has been good recently. And I look at the Blazers and I see a team that just no matter what the hell happens, Damian Lillard wins. And that's it. Like that's all. It's not hate on Luca. Luca's an all-star. Luca's one of the top like 7 or 8 players in the league. But I just think that we got to put some respect on my man's name.
I think we got to put some respect on Luka's name. But that's where we are, I guess.
That's where we are. Well, let's keep on moving real quick, though. Make sure if y'all loving the show, you take a look down, hit that like and subscribe. Maybe take a peek at our Patreon page. Check us out on Twitter at Real Take Sports. To the NFL again. We got some sad news. Former Chargers and Buccaneers wide receiver Vincent Jackson found dead at 38. He struggled with alcoholism for much of his adult life. His family has donated his brain to science to study the effects of alcoholism and CTE. And, our hearts really go out to Vincent Jackson's family and to Vincent Jackson's friends and to the Chargers and Buccaneers organizations. We know it's been a good time for Tampa Bay after winning a title, but ain't nothing going to bring Vincent Jackson back, and that's just a shame. We see that deputies were able to locate and speak with Jackson at his hotel just a few days before, but it's just, it's a shame. You never know when someone's going to go and when your time is up. I know, I don't know about you, but Vincent Jackson and the Chargers were a favorite of me on Madden. And he was a great receiver.
Yeah.
He was one of those guys who was around when I was a kid watching football. He was never the elite of the elite, but he was always a guy who was putting up great numbers. He was a good locker room presence. He was a good all around dude. And it's just, it breaks your heart. Honestly,
Yeah.
it breaks your heart to lose a guy this early in his life. He still had a lot left to give to this world.
Mm-hmm. I actually spoke about this on a live stream I did when the news broke, and one of the things that I said was Vincent Jackson. If you watched football, it's very attentively watched football, you took notice of how great Vincent Jackson truly was. He's one of the best possession receivers of his entire era. And I'm not trying to make that as like a slight or to be, offensive. Like I mean that as a compliment. I think Vincent Jackson being a great possession receiver is great because your main job in the NFL as a receiver is to catch the damn ball. So, Vincent Jackson obviously did a fantastic job of that throughout his career. And, like you said, like in Madden, he was unstoppable. Whenever, like in Madden, like 11, Madden 12, whenever I was playing those games in franchise mode, the one receiver I always had on my team, I always traded for, I always signed, was Vincent Jackson, because I knew no matter who I had at quarterback, throwing them the ball, he's getting it. And he was underrated. Like let's also talk about that.
Underrated.
He was extremely underrated, and part of that I think goes to because he was playing in San Diego, and he was playing there while Phillip Rivers was there. He was playing there while Antonio Gates was dominating, and those two kind of got a lot of the headlines, LaDainian Tomlinson too. So there were a lot of pieces around in that team that were getting more shine than he was, but he was consistently producing. Got noticed a little bit more when he went to Tampa Bay, I believe. And, look, this is, like I said, this is a tragedy. And, we don't want to speculate on exactly what happened. We do know that there were no drugs or no medication found on the scene, according to authorities. He didn't have a history of drug use, so this doesn't seem to be about that. It doesn't seem to have much to do with that. So it really is, at this point, a mystery. We don't know. Hopefully his family can get closure on that. But, Johnny, I do think, and you mentioned this, you mentioned that his family donated his brain to CTE research, which I think is a great thing. And especially if anyone who played football, I think, would benefit the entire football and the world, quite frankly, by doing something like that. But like, let's talk about just that aspect of it, because that brings up the question. We've seen a string of recently, they come to light, a string of football deaths of young people who are younger. 38 years old is relatively extremely young for someone to die. And, we know the CTE has led to the suicides of Dave Duerson, Aaron Hernandez while he was in jail. He also committed suicide. So there's a history of deaths and Junior Seau, and again, I'm not saying that whether or not we don't know anything about that, but people who play football tend to die young. Same thing with wrestling. This happens, and a lot of that they've linked to CTE and concussions. And during this time, I was thinking about one thing, and that is like, it wasn't like what is the future of football necessarily, but it was like, should we even play the game? Are the risks worth the rewards? And I kind of went back and forth on it, and it's weird because you kind of realize you have your own bias as a football fan, right? You have your own bias as a fan of saying that, oh, well, I've seen it happen. Like I've seen this game played for my entire life. It brings me joy. It brings so many other people joy. People know the risks they're going into. But then, there's a lot of things you can point to from your perspective, and like in your vacuum, it looks like a good argument. But on the outside looking in, for someone who probably isn't a football fan looking in, this is barbaric. So like that's one of the things I've actually struggled with, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, so this conversation comes up periodically whenever something like this happens. And you mentioned Junior Seau. He was one of the first of the former players who passed at an early age that his family donated his brain to science. It's the CTE issue has come through the news cycle. There was the Will Smith movie and the NFL cover-ups, and this is not something that's new. And I think it's important for people to know that this information, if you want to learn about it, it is called chronic traumatic encephalopathy. It is disease that you can get in your brain from chronic head injuries, from chronic impact, multiple concussions. Any NFL play, forget about NFL players. I'm talking to people who played in high school, who played in college, anyone who's played the sport of football and who has received multiple head injuries, multiple concussions. you can have this if you have multiple concussion disorder, right? That you have the long lasting effects of concussions. You could have CTE. It's something that could develop at a later age, and it's just something that we don't know enough about. It's something that we are having kids put on pads and helmets and run into each other like little damn robots without knowing what this is going to do to people 20, 30, 40 years down the line. I get, only a select amount, a few people go and play NFL football. And I get that NFL players understand the risks of playing football. I understand that. But to me, this discussion isn't about NFL players. To me, this discussion is about all the kids who signed up for Pee Wee or Chargers or whatever your local area calls it, right? All those 6 and 7 and 8 and 9-year-old kids that you're signing up to play football without any idea of what that's going to do to their brain development. These are children, right? Children. And I think that, every time something like this happens, and every time that we send an NFL player who we lost too early to study, to see how these injuries affect them, I think that that's invaluable to understanding how we can help people going forward. Because at the end of the day, like, I don't think I would let my kids play football. There are safer alternatives that allow you to get the same experience. I don't need my kid playing middle linebacker to learn team sports. I love basketball. Look, I am dealing with a shoulder injury from my year playing pickup football with my college buddies. This is not just something. Like, I've been dealing with this shoulder injury for 5 years, and I'm a normal dude. I'm a small dude. Yeah, I'm short, and I'm not like big, but like, it is what it is. I get it. But like, that's just me playing pickup football, twice a week for a year and a half. Imagine, like, I have friends who played high school football who've had 3, 4, 5 concussions. At the end of the day, football is a dangerous sport, and there are alternatives to playing football. For, you want to talk about it being a heavy minority, heavy black sport. There are alternatives in the culture to playing football. You can play basketball. You can play baseball. You can play hockey, tennis, golf. There are so many things that you can do to get the sports experience, to get the team sports experience, to get the ability to get out of a tough home life, to, get away, to have that experience for a college app. There are lots of reasons why people play team sports. And there are lots of brilliant, amazing, incredible things that come out of those experiences, and a lot of brilliant people who NFL or NBA or MLB or whatever your sport is, that they maybe they didn't make it that far and they went and did something else and they learned something from that. There are a lot of ways to get that experience. And I just think that as a society, we got to understand what is occurring, what we're doing to people, and what this means for sending kids up this pipeline when they're too young to assume the risks of this.
I agree. Like, I agree. But one thing that I think this is like more of a societal question than anything else. It's not, and like you said, it's not specifically about football. But like, look at some of the alternatives. Like, some of the biggest sports. You got hockey, which is extremely physical. Like, you could get a concussion in hockey. Like 10 years ago, you get a concussion in hockey, not even know it, and like just like continue playing the game. There's fights. They literally fight each other on the court, and it's part of the game. And like boxing. You got boxing, you got mixed martial arts. We don't know the long-term implications of that because UFC only really came to prominence in the early 2000s. There's professional wrestling, which I've already mentioned, that thousands of people are doing. People don't like, it's not a huge like thing, but people gotta realize professional wrestling, like you're hitting on the mat. You're hitting your head, you're hitting your knees on the mat, which is wood. It's not like people don't know. It's not a mattress. It's wood. You are literally putting like your knees onto wood. That leads to knee problems, back problems, because you have to land on your back and your shoulders a lot. Sometimes your head. You're doing a lot of headbutts, getting punched. So there's that. NASCAR, we don't talk about that either. Like the dangers that are involved, because NASCAR and stock races, there's crashes all the time. We saw at the Daytona 500 last lap, there was a huge crash that changed the entire outcome of the race, and that's part of their game, and that's part of their sport. Stock cars, Dan Weldon, one of the best, won the Indy 500 a few years ago, one of the best racers in the world at the time, just a few years ago, passed away because of an accident on the race course, and it goes on and on, and you kind of think to yourself, and you said basketball, right? And that's one sport that people are exceedingly going towards as a sport to go to, but can we have can we actually as a society have sports without that lingering danger? Because there's dangers in a lot of sports, even in basketball, to a smaller extent than most, right? There's a danger in that, and I think that's also part of the appeal, as sick as it sounds, right? In some of these sports, the danger in it, because in boxing, what does everyone want to see? Boxing, UFC, you're waiting for that knockout. Come on, you're waiting for that knockout. In football,
we cheered when Nate Robinson got put on his ass.
Well, yeah, that was for multiple reasons. He was talking a lot of shit, but look, like NASCAR, you're just waiting for that crash. Football, you're waiting for that big hit. So it's and I do think that it's going to evolve over time, but I do think societally it's going to be hard to answer that question, because is it like basketball maybe one of the biggest most major sports where there's no danger? There's obviously Olympic sports that have less danger, like curling and wrestling, and different sports like that. But even like snowboarding, there's dangers for crashes. So I don't know. The thing is to what extent is it going to go? Do you think what's the maximum that can happen? What's the maximum that will happen? And that's the question that keeps coming to my mind.
Yeah, I think you got to look at it kind of two ways, right? It's the first way is that I don't think it was ever not known that these sports were dangerous, right? People aren't stupid. They see, even in the early days of football, they see what this stuff does to people. Any athlete will tell you, yeah, man, of course I gave my game to the sport. Or I gave my body to the game, of course, it is what it is, right? You do it for the sport, you do it for the love, you do it for the glory, and you lay everything you have on the line, right? And any athlete will tell you that, whether it's 1955 or 2021. And so I think that's kind of the first thing that we have to look at, is that terrible, violent, aggressive sports, that's been around for all time. I mean, the Romans used to impale people for sport in the Colosseum. That's what it's there for, right? It is, every society in human history has had, violent sport. It's just, so when you look at it that way, you say, okay, well, why then are we different, right? And I think the question is how do we balance the violent sport aspect of, we're just going to accept that these are things that we want, with doing our best within that context to keep these people safe. And the big travesty with the NFL especially was that they knew the dangers were so much greater than anyone ever knew, and they sat on that information, and that's what the Will Smith CTE movie is about, is that they sat on the information, that they actively attempted to keep it from being published, right? That they harassed scientists and journalists to keep it from being published and disseminated. And I think that all you can do is create awareness for these issues and to let people know that, hey, sign your kid up for football if you want. No one's taking that choice away from you, but you have to understand what that could look like. And what we don't know is what that does to the average, 8-year-old to play peewee football. We just don't know. The average kid who plays, peewee football from 8 to 14, and they're not going to play high school football. Maybe they played in their freshman year and then they quit. I know a lot of dudes who played freshman football because it was a thing to do and it was how you met people, how you were cool in high school, right? And then they quit after that because it just wasn't for them. They weren't going to, go to college and play football.
Right.
But what does that do to people in just those 6 years alone of taking those hits as a child? in the puberty, in the most active parts of brain development. What does that do? We just have zero idea.
Right.
And to me, that's the big issue, is that we just don't know what that risk looks like. And if you
Right.
can tell me what that risk is, if science ever figures out what that answer is, and you can make that awareness out there, then fine. Everyone has a right to make that choice for themselves and for their family and for their children. I'm not taking choice away from people, but I'm very pro awareness and learning of the issues with the choices that you're making. And if you as a family, or as a 12-year-old, or as a a mother or a father, are comfortable with taking risks that exist, then I mean, by all means, I can't stop you, but just really think that through and what that means and what that can do to you.
Right. And like this is the last thing I'm probably gonna say. Like, if we're being real, like we're no scientists, obviously. We're not you know the doctor in that movie from Concussion. Tell the truth. That's not who we are. But like obviously, just looking at what's gone on with CTE research, what's gone on with the players, what's gone on with just athletes in general, in these violent quote unquote sports, dying at early ages. I think we kind of have an indication about what the answer to your question, Johnny. Like like, is it unsafe, or is it like probably, is it worth like playing? Like, we probably have an answer. Like, the probably are a lot of terrible consequences for young people to get involved in these dangerous sports in the long term. The only question, and I think you put it right, is you know do we take that choice away? I don't think so. But I think, like, over time, if it really is, if people are really turned off by those sports and by like that danger, I think it's just honestly gonna naturally, people are gonna go away from those things. And we've seen the NFL take a little bit of a hit in recent years because of it. And there is that lingering threat too, and the league's tried to make it safer for players, and a lot of times, very annoyingly so, calling sacks, roughing the passer penalties, which I mean, look at that point, like, I mean, you just have like a just don't sack the quarterback, let him throw it, and like if they don't throw it within like 10 seconds, like call it a sack or whatever, like, right? I see, like, and like that stuff, like, if they didn't do stupid shit like that, and I understand they're trying. You're trying to make the games as safe as possible, and some of the initiatives that they have done are good. Like, they like immediately at the high school and pee wee level, they're teaching kids never to go for the head. Right? They're teaching kids like more safer ways to tackle, which I think is a good thing. Like, it diminishes some of the risk involved. Like, you're not having people going out there and like hitting each other in the heads every like almost every other play, but at the same time, the running backs do that anyway. So it's a catch-22. You don't know.
And the offensive linemen do it anyway.
Oh my god, offensive people need to, like, there needs to be a movie about the trenches. Like some of the shit that, especially in the 70s, if you look at some of the shit, they would be punching each other in the face. It's insane with some of the stuff that would be going on. But yeah, I don't know. There is no answer right now, and hopefully we find an answer soon. I hope, like, it doesn't take more people, more players like Vincent Jackson, or like Joey out in like Wyoming that we don't know about, who might have had similar problems because he played football when he was younger. Like, those are the stories we don't hear either. So there's like no real number we can put on it, and that's why it's important to like do that research, and it's important for us to support that research as well as fans.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. So let's keep moving. If you guys like the show, don't forget, take a look down low, like and subscribe. Check us out on Twitter at Real Take Sports. Check us out on Patreon. On to Capitol Hill, Major League
Nani?
Baseball. Yeah, Major League Baseball in the crosshairs of Senator Bernie Sanders. So you guys may recall a few months ago, Major League Baseball released a proposal to cut 42 teams. And Congress took exception. A couple of congressmen, including Sanders, sent a letter back then to Commissioner Rob Manfred. Omer, what do we think of Rob Manfred?
Um, I think he's an inept owner or inept commissioner, and he needs to be fired. Hashtag fire
Hash-
Rob Manfred.
Hashtag fire Rob Manfred. So Bernie Sanders back in the news again, sending a letter to Rob Manfred last week on Twitter. He wrote at MLB proposing to cut 42 minor league baseball clubs. This has nothing to do with what's good for baseball and everything to do with greed. It would destroy thousands of jobs and devastate local economies. I'm urging MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred to stop this proposal. In another tweet, he wrote, "This is about greed, plain and simple. Closing down minor league teams like the Vermont Lake Monsters is a disaster for baseball fans, workers, and communities across the country. I will do all I can to fight it." Now, a lot of this was planned, and some of this is spurred by COVID revenue losses. Let's keep in mind that they did not play a single minor league game last season, right? They only played 60 MLB games last year plus the playoffs. So they did not play a minor league game, minor league season last year. And the minor league season this year is likely to be short, and it is likely to be very, very abrupt. And probably I would see it getting shut down at various points. It's baseball is a very interesting and unique sport in the way that it's run. It's very arcane, it's very old fashioned, and this is a plan that the league is pitched to streamline. Right, we don't need these teams, they don't make money, people don't go to these games, and it's heartbreaking as a baseball fan, honestly, to see this, because I grew up taking trips to the Lakewood Blue Claws, the Trenton Thunder. It's one of my favorite places was watching. I used to watch Chase Utley and Ryan Howard for the Phillies when they would when you got hurt, or Jimmy Rollins or Cole Hamels. All those Phillies superstars that would get hurt, and I'd be able to go down to the Lakewood Blue Claws Stadium, and I'd be able to watch them rehab and see, Derek Jeter or Alex Rodriguez at the Trenton Thunder games, or, up in Coney Island with the Brooklyn Cyclones, getting to watch some Mets rehab. Like those are memories that baseball fans get. That's the baseball experience that you can't get that in a major league ball club anymore. That's what baseball in its purest form is supposed to look like. So, my hats are off to Senator Sanders for, making this a public issue and for bringing awareness to this, and, for using his platform to advocate for minor leaguers who are, oh boy, I don't even know if we want to get into how minor leaguers are treated in Major League Baseball, but it's a good platform position for him to take, and I appreciate that he did it.
Right, and let's keep in mind, we're not a politics podcast. That's a totally different show. But the thing is, and like you said, Senator Sanders has taken a position that it's actually very contradictory to what Rob Manfred and the Major League commissioners and the Major League board want to do, because they see this strictly as a money-saving measure. Let's be honest. Are they doing it for the well-being of the players and the well-being of people? It's not. It has nothing to do with that. They have an excuse to get rid of these teams now, so they're taking advantage of it. But they're doing it without looking at the long-term implications of not just on those communities, because a lot of those communities, they love their minor league team. Like the Bowie Bay Sox are way more popular than the Orioles right now in the Maryland area, right? You have, and Bernie Sanders' team, the team in Vermont, Vermont doesn't have a baseball team. Bowie, Maryland doesn't have a baseball team. Trenton doesn't have a baseball team, right? So you have all of these areas, these markets, that are small, but like their minor league teams, that like that feeling of hey, there's nothing to do today. Let's go to a game. you know? And like for Vermont especially, and he's coming from this strictly from he's representing his state. And I think that's good in this respect, right? He's coming at it like this is something that affects my state because a lot of jobs in his state, a lot of jobs in that region of Vermont depend on that stadium running, whether it be people working at the stadium, whether it be people working for the team, whether it be people working at concessions, et cetera, et cetera. You know, there's communities that depend on like those types of resources and those types of things to bring people in and create jobs. When you immediately take that away, it not only does it hurt the economy locally, but it hurts the fans and it hurts the sports. And let me tell you why. Because those communities, like the people that go and watch or go to these minor league baseball games, they do it. They do it because they like baseball. But when you take that away, when you take something that they like, and granted, it might not be a large amount of people, but baseball cannot really afford to lose many more fans at this point. They're like, their popularity is not doing well. You know, there was a little bit of boom in popularity after the steroid era. After like ratings fell during the steroid era and popularity fell, but ever since then we've been seeing it go down and down, and I'm concerned that this, is going to alienate a lot of those fans. Like a lot of those fans who like to root for their local team. A lot of those fans who their main connection with baseball might be that local team. Their main connection with the MLB might be that local team. And like there's no other league that they can go watch. Like MLB has a monopoly on minor leagues. MLB had a monopoly on everything because they owned everything. And they shut like 42 teams down. It's just not a good look for them. And look, you can look at it, oh, well, it's a cost-saving measure. But to an extent, if you're the MLB, right, and you want to build yourself as the brand of baseball, not just Major League Baseball, you are baseball in America, right? That's what you are. It would behoove you to go out of your way, spend some money, right? $1 billion company, spend some money, like expand the brand. That's what, and I talk about wrestling a lot, right? WWE for a long time had a monopoly on professional wrestling. They literally bought up every single promotion, and there were a lot of promotions they bought up, and they kept them going. They branched out and they started doing stuff in England. They started doing stuff in Japan. They started doing stuff now in India, like they're in Australia. They're branching out, and it's they're not making a lot of money on these endeavors, but they're doing it because it helped builds up the brand of the WWE. And if baseball, they already have these avenues to go to in the minor leagues. I think that, this is not a good move for them strategically. I think business-wise, okay, you want to shut them down for a year? I understand that because, the risks might not outweigh the benefits at that point. But to cut them all outright and to drop them, I think that's extremely dangerous to the brand of the MLB and the sport of baseball, because what you're saying to those communities, what you're saying to those fans is, that, well, we never really cared about your team in the first place. We never really cared about your love of the game in the first place. And it's not a good position to be coming from. And fire Rob Manfred.
Fire Rob Manfred forever and always. I mean, you're absolutely right. At the end of the day, baseball has I think what people don't understand is that baseball is in a very unique position. No, we want to talk about the popularity of football and basketball, but football and basketball can't hold up. There are what? 3+ minor league systems with at least 20-something teams per, and you can fill out every one of those roster spots with 25 dudes. That's a lot of baseball players. People just don't get the sheer number of baseball players that exist out there, because there's still college baseball. There's still, semi-pro baseball. There's still high school baseball. Baseball could really benefiting in its minor league system to make baseball more attractive to go into, because it's a big bet. You go into the NBA, you're getting drafted and playing NBA basketball. Now you might go into the G League and play for a year or two or bounce between the rosters or, something along those lines. But in Major League Baseball, you're waiting 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years before you sniff a Major League roster. And the chances of you getting there, even after getting drafted, are still almost zero. So baseball wants to become an attractive sport to young kids. Take a look in the mirror and realize, how are you treating 18-year-olds who love the game of baseball? And if the answer is like absolute shit, then why do you think that nobody wants to play baseball? Like, why do you think that is? So
yeah, and look at the amount of money the NBA is beginning to pump into the G League to make that a more attractive option to players who are coming out of high school. Look at what they're doing. That's all you need to do if you're baseball. And what's that doing? It's giving young people an incentive to play the sport. It's giving young people a reason to be like, hey, I might never make, LeBron James level money. I might never make Damian Lillard level money. But I could make a living playing a sport that I love. And there is a lot of merit in that argument. There's a lot of merit in, doing that and, investing money. Again, like they're looking at it strictly. This is the problem with the MLB too. They're looking at it strictly from a, direct financial impact, like in the short term. Look at it as a long-term investment in the brand. And it's like, it makes no sense to cut these teams. And I think, like, especially with Bernie Sanders, someone like him, possibly leading a charge on this. And I'm not sure, like, it will ever happen, right? But there's probably going to be mumblings of it, and we'll probably cover it at some point. Do you think there's any chance in the world, like even the slightest bit of chance? And I'm not going to lie, I want to see this happen because I think the MLB's leadership is completely inept, and it probably needs to be reformed in great ways. Because we've seen these sports like the NFL, the NBA, kind of in America. They have a monopoly. The MLB also a monopoly on that specific sport.
That's congressionally allotted too.
It's congressionally allotted too. Do you think there's any chance with the MLB specifically, and because here's the thing, Bernie Sanders is not someone who's shied away from trying to break up things in the past. He's not shied away from trying to break up big banks. He's not trying. I don't think he's going to shy away from trying to break up potentially the MLB into something that's probably better for the brand of baseball and the communities who are impacted by that. And I'm not sure what that process would be, obviously, but I do think that, if you're the MLB too, you also have to think about, is this an enemy you want to make? Because this is also what he's going to do is going to reflect bad on the brand of the MLB as well, because now everyone's going to be talking like we're talking right now about, baseball, like doing this and for really no good reason. There's really no good reason for them to cut these teams.
So I'm going to drop some law school facts on you. This is actually what I learned from my last job. But baseball, Major League Baseball, is a nonprofit. It is a
wait. Pause.
Yeah,
what?
It's a trade union. It's classified under tax law as a trade union. I'm not kidding. It's like the man. I'm drawing a blank. But it's a trade union is what it is, right? So it's in a Major League Baseball it doesn't pay taxes. The NFL gave up its nonprofit status back in like 2007 or 8 or something because it was just too many loops to jump through, right? But the NBA and the MLB are trade unions. They are nonprofits, so you cannot break them up. That's yeah. You cannot break them up. So that's the one thing. The other thing is that MLB is there are, I don't know what the law on the book. I'll have to get back guys on the research on that. But there are anti-competition laws that are in place that Major League Baseball has lobbied to get, in the late 20th century to keep some other of the semi-pro teams down. And the MLB actually bought out a few semi-pro teams recently to add them to the minor league system because they wanted those markets, and then just to fold other teams in other markets. So that's a whole different issue. But yeah, the tax law behind this and the logistics behind this is all kinds of fucked. And these are the things that people don't know about, These are the things that people don't know about the stadium deals. People don't know about the like handshake pork and barrel kind of legislation that cities and states agree to keep places in there. I mean, why do you think the St. Louis Rams and the NFL moved to Los Angeles? Is because they couldn't get St. Louis to pay for 3/4 of their $2 billion stadium, and Inglewood said, "Yeah, we'll pay for your stadium. Come on over, Stan Kroenke." So at the end of the day, the laws are in baseball's favor. They're not in Senator Sanders' favor. And I mean, he has the opportunity to lobby for law changes, but at the end of the day, he'd be about as successful with any congressional efforts as you and I would be if we went to Capitol Hill at midnight screaming in our underwear. At the end of the day, baseball is going to do what baseball is going to do, and Sanders can run an awareness campaign to fight this. And hopefully, you get baseball involved with a local community in Vermont, and the goal is to find a way to make it more profitable, right? COVID has made baseball in the minor league levels not profitable. It's not possible. They can't run. There's no TV deals. There's no, you're not selling jerseys. You're not selling memorabilia. You're not making money on likenesses. You're not getting betting. There's none of that for minor league baseball. And so minor league baseball is 100% dependent on ticket revenue and revenue sharing from the big clubs. And at the end of the day, if fans can't walk through the door, minor league baseball can't happen. Like that's just the sad reality of the situation. And so if you're looking at a post-COVID world, like how do you make minor league baseball profitable? And I think the next person to answer that question and pitch that to Rob Manfred is going to be a very wealthy man or woman.
And if you want to hear me talk about this more on the political side, be sure to tune into the Umar Q Show tomorrow, 6 p.m. Link in the description for our sister channel below. I will not talk about this anymore because if I do, it's going to turn into a really political rant, and I refuse to go on that route in this show yet. So let's move on, Johnny. Let's move on, and let's talk about Big Ben. What do you got for me?
Yeah, man. So lots of interesting noise out of Steelers camp. Not things that you would expect to hear out of a team that was 12-0, but they are looking on moving on from Big Ben. Big Ben is a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's that dreaded vote of confidence. So you don't want to see that in your future Hall of Fame quarterback, but Ben is up there in years. He has not stayed healthy. He looked slow, and he did not look like he had zip on his throws. And the Steelers, I mean, I don't even know how you want to talk about that loss to the Browns, who missed half their defense and half their offensive line, and 3 of their top 4 coaches. That was
out with COVID.
Yeah, that's a brutal playoff loss. When you're fully healthy and you have weeks to prepare,
dude,
and
you lost.
I would be looking at him.
You lost to the Cleveland Browns, their first playoff win in 25 years, 26 probably. I don't know the math, but 25 plus years.
Something ridiculous.
You're gonna go down in history. like this is an entire era. Dude, there were 3 things that were guaranteed in life: death, taxes, and Cleveland Browns sucking and not winning a playoff game. Steelers changed that. But yeah, I mean, look, I as someone who's paid attention to the AFC North, I watched Steelers games. And even here's the thing, even in the beginning of the season when Big Ben was playing better, because there was a difference between the way Big Ben was playing in the beginning of the season and the way he was playing towards the end. Towards the end, he did look a lot slower. There was a little less zing on the ball, and I think a lot of that had to do with fatigue over time. And the Steelers' offense, they're an offense that relied heavily on Big Ben last year, especially. They did. James Conner missed a few games. And James Conner, love him to death. We love his story and everything, but he's not really a every down back. And it's hard to really find an every down back. But the problem is with the Steelers, they didn't even have, a one or two down back on the bench either. So, like, they didn't have that support in the backfield for Ben. You saw that Juju was off this year. He spent more time dancing on logos and anything else, and which I don't have a look. Here's the thing. When you dance on a logo, you at least better show up. Like I'm someone who has been victimized, by had his logo danced on. My team in the next game showed up and did a little payback. But in all seriousness, I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers, what they need to do, and look, the GM said it. As we sit here today, Ben is a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers. What they need to do is probably find a way to move on. I don't think they will, though, because the way the Steelers are, the Steeler way, is to hold on and to hold him on to him. And I think this is probably going to be his last year. And I think all signs point towards that. I think after this year, even the Steelers won't ignore it. It's kind of similar to the deal. You could see a similar deal with what happened with the Ravens, because the Ravens are a very similarly run kind of organization as far as they're very, player friendly. They're kind of like a family in a sense, right? And they're a well-run organization. So I could see a potential where the Steelers could draft the quarterback of the future towards the end of this draft. In the first round. And I think someone that could come in would be, like that. I forgot his name already. Trey Lance. I think, would be a great fit for that Steelers team. I don't want to see him. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't want to see Trey Lance on that Steelers team. But
can I throw a name at you?
Yeah, just 1 second. But I think Trey Lance would provide a very similar role to Ben, but he'd be younger, he'd be cheaper, and he'd be better than Big Ben is right now with a bigger upside.
Yeah, let me throw a name at you. I want to hit you with Gardner Minshew. What do you think about that?
Don't make me do it. 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 No, I don't want to see Gardner Minshew in Pittsburgh, and that is all like that is for the sake of Gardner Minshew. I want to root for him. I don't want to root against him. I can honestly say if Gardner Minshew became a Pittsburgh Steeler, I would the Minshew minute is over. Any mention of Gardner Flint Minshew II on this podcast, on this show, is over. Like the jersey is going into the trash. Like it's over. Like the real take love affair with Gardner Minshew will end if he ever ends up going to the Steelers, and has nothing to do with Gardner Minshew. It has everything to do with the fact that I disdain the Pittsburgh Steelers. And have they had players that I respected in the past? Didn't necessarily like, but respected. Troy Polamalu, impossible not to respect that man. James Harrison, even though he was a dick, don't hurt me. Impossible not to respect that man. But I think that I see why you think that, right? My thing is, I just don't see. I don't see them making that move. They're not the type to make that move. If anything, they're the type of team. They do something like the Ravens would do, which is like sign a quarterback that you've had on your preseason or your training camp roster, Like I think they signed Josh Dobson like twice in the past 2 years. I think that's more of a route that they would go. Maybe re-sign Ducky Hodges, quack, bring him back for a round 2. Like that's more. So
you're saying they're gonna go with Rudolph?
No. That's not. What do you mean next year?
Yeah, that you think that they'll re-sign Rudolph and give him a shot if Big Ben, is not playing well this year? Or
no. I think they draft. I think they draft Trey Lance. Like I'm serious. I think they draft Trey Lance.
Mm-hmm. So here's my thing is I kind of want to compare this to the situation in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers. And obviously Aaron Rodgers is better than Roethlisberger is right now and overall, right? But they weren't afraid to take a quarterback. Yeah, but they weren't afraid to take a quarterback. They took Jordan Love, and he's still mad about that. He's still mad about it. Like he was won the MVP.
so mad that he had a shot to take that team to a Super Bowl and run in for a touchdown, and he decided not to.
He decided not to. So when you look at and we still know like there's still quarterbacks out there. Like there are a couple guys in the draft you can get. I think that you can move up to 15 and get a decent quarterback, right? I don't think I don't think all three of them are going in the top 4. So like there are options on the market. Your boy Cam Newton's still out there. If you're looking for someone he might not fit the Steeler way, but
not even the Steeler way. I don't know, man. Cam, I love Cam.
Garoppolo, maybe you're looking for Garoppolo.
No, that salary, dude. They're not gonna pick. One thing you got to understand about the Steelers too. They're like it's a weird way. They avoid spending. It's weird. They're smart about it though. They avoid spending money on those types of players, like those unproven types of players. And like if they do, it's like once in like a generation they ever do it. So like I just don't see them making a big splash like that. And I don't think they're gonna be willing to give up what the Niners want in exchange for Garoppolo. I think that's also plays into it. That's why I see them drafting a quarterback. That's more so the Steeler way. Like whether it's Mac Jones, whether it's Kid Wilson at BYU, or I think Trey Lance would be the best fit for that team. But I think that's more apt to what they would do. And they might not even do it in the first round, to be honest with you. They might just do it in the second, third round and take a shot there. Like that's
I mean, we know the record with second-round quarterbacks. The record for second-round quarterbacks is not good.
Hey, Derek Carr, I'll have you know, is still a
he
franchise
might be available.
quarterback.
Why don't you go trade for him?
Me?
The Steelers? Derek?
Oh no!
Not you,
no.
the Steelers.
I was about to say me. I got me a quarterback that's also a running back at the same time, so I'm cool with that. He's like double the punch at the same time. I'm fine, but no, I mean that could be interesting, right? But again, the problem comes up with Carr's contract, and like if David Carr or Derek Carr was if Derek Carr was Peyton Manning in 2012 on that salary, I could see them making that move. But Derek Carr is not Peyton Manning, and on that salary, like Carr's like on a $120+ million deal. I don't see it. Like that's just the thing. Like they would be the most Steeler thing to do to just be like, all right, whatever. Ben's back, second round. Pick Jones, pick, someone else, right? And just kind of go along the next year and see what happens.
Yeah, I agree with you that I think that's what's going to happen. I just, in good faith, I have to give the Giants cautionary tale because they gave Eli all the leeway in the world, and Eli should have retired probably 2 or 3 years before he did. And I mean, the Giants are the laughingstock of the NFL now. And when you have an opportunity,
when your team, dude, you know why you're laughing in the NFL? No, you know why? Because you guys were 6-10 and you were complaining about not making the playoffs. No, that's why you're the laughing.
We should have made the playoffs, but we've been the laughing
win
stock
one more
for a
game.
While now.
Win one more game.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not disagreeing with you on that. I get it. But the Giants have been the laughing stock for a few years now. Eli Manning was a punchline for a few years before he retired. This isn't a 2020, 2021 thing. This is a going back to, Odell and the wide receiver core on Justin Bieber's boat kind of deal, right? When things just went downhill. Like, it's a cautionary tale. The, TikTok juju nonsense. And Ben wasn't terrible. You're looking at a 64% completion percentage or 65% completion percentage, 3,800 yards, 33 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, and a 94 QB rating. Like, those aren't awful numbers. Those are decent numbers. And he missed a game, didn't he? He missed a game or two. So we're talking about fine. He wasn't horrendous, but that's the thing is you go from not horrendous to horrendous like that. It's a fucking snap of the fingers. And so you got to get out in front of that. You got to know when it's time. And that's why guys like Stafford were get me the hell out of here. Send me to someplace I can win. Because, Stafford knows that he's 5, big hits away from his career being over. And those 5 hits could come in one game or come spread out over 3 seasons. Right. And he took the bet that he can get, protection in Los Angeles. So, I mean, you're going to watch him, have that collapse into terrible, or you're going to get out in front of it Get a quarterback who legitimately can win you games, not some second round Geno Smith looking ass. And like get out there and be on top of winning. The Steelers are a smart franchise. I know you hate them. But
No,
they're a
no, no.
smart
I'm not.
franchise.
I never said they weren't. That's part of the reason why I hate them. That they are a smart franchise. Like they're literally the only other competent franchise in our division. That's primary, and they have been for like 20 years. That's why I hate them. But but there is one move though I could see them making, and it's a long shot. It is a long shot. Like trust me. But if there's one quarterback that is worth going out on a limb and getting, it would be Deshaun Watson. And I think that, Deshaun Watson coming to a place like Pittsburgh where the fans will automatically love him. The fans will be behind him 100% because they know the type of player he is. The fans want Roethlisberger out, quite frankly. As far as what it's going to take up to get him, that's the only player. Like no Jimmy G, no Kirk Cousins, no Derek Carr, no Mitch Trubisky, none of them. The only person that I could see them trading the first or two for would be Deshaun Watson, and that would put that team in a very different position than they were last year. Because last year they started the season 11-0, almost went were talks about undefeated. That's how well they were playing, but the thing is, they relied too much on Roethlisberger. They relied too much on the passing game, and it wasn't sustainable at the end of the day. And when your passing game isn't sustainable, when you have an aging quarterback, and you have receivers like Juju Smith-Schuster, like Washington, like Curtis Claypool, and those guys, and you might be able to get a nice running back in the second round or in the draft at some point or in free agency. This team's defense is elite. I'm talking about next level type of elite. They're one of the best defenses in the NFL. TJ Watt arguably should have been the defensive player of the year. But at the same time, you're seeing them not go, they're seeing them regress because of Ben Roethlisberger. So if you want a plug-and-play option to automatically put your team over the top and make it on OP, I think Deshaun Watson on that Steelers team would be dangerous. And if I'm the Steelers GM, I'm at least making the call. Look, you'll get Roethlisberger, you'll get a competent quarterback in exchange. You have to give up 2 first-round picks. That's a starter, right? That's the starter for Deshaun Watson, at least, and whatever picks you would have to give up in general. But
that's the posting fee.
Right. But if I were the Steelers, and if I'm that's the only thing I would even entertain. I'm not even saying they do it or I would do it, right, if I'm them. But I would at least entertain it and see if that's on the table and, make myself think about that in, real terms.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think you're absolutely right. And, I mean, Deshaun Watson would make the Steelers a Super Bowl contender. That would vaunt them to the top of the list in the AFC. If they got to shoot, because that's the MVP candidate. He led the league in passing yards. That's a man who on the right team could throw for 50 touchdowns. So you put him on the Steelers with that cast of receivers. I mean, that's OP. They're going to give the Ravens a good run for their money. So
Mike Tomlin, if you're listening, don't do it. Everything I just said was bullshit. Deshaun Watson is a terrible player. He's not a franchise quarterback. Deshaun Watson went to Clemson, all right? Any player from Clemson is not worth the paper they signed their contract on.
You can't. You can't. I'm going to cry. You can't.
Longtime watchers of the show will get that joke. I'm sorry. I couldn't resist. It was Deshaun Watson. I couldn't resist. I'm going to hell.
I'm dead.
But yes, no, it's Deshaun Watson's the only dude you would even entertain in that situation if you're the Steelers. There's no other free agent or trade option out there that you would entertain. Because I'm not fuck out of here. I'm not trading for Kirk Cousins. I can get the same production out of Ben that I would get out of Cousins with probably more clutch gene. Because Ben is way more. Look, you ask me right now, who am I taking? I'd take Ben over Kirk Cousins I'd take Ben over Kirk Cousins. I would take. There's a lot of quarterbacks actually I would take over Kirk Cousins if we're being real, because I've never seen someone do less with more than Kirk Cousins. Because no, like I'm being honest. I'm like.
Oh, I agree with you. I agree. No argument here.
Think about someone who had Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen in the prime of their career, Dalvin Cook in the backfield. He had McKinnon too. Like that was their secondary back. He had both of those. He had both those guys. He had Kyle Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer, good offensive line, solid, and that defense which at the time coming off that NFC Championship run with fucking Case Keenum, who they should have kept, and they should have kept, because you say what you want to about Case Keenum and Kirk Cousins' talent level. Kirk Cousins actually might be a better quarterback than Case Keenum. But in that offense, on that team, he was respected more. He worked better in the offense. The receivers knew that they weren't so dependent on the run, on the pass. They didn't have to throw the ball every time. Because that's the whole reason you went out and got Kirk Cousins. You paid him all that money. Was because, it's going to be Kirk Cousins is going to come in here. It's going to become a passing team. That's why Stephon Diggs left. Because Stephon Diggs even said, like, I respected Case. I knew I wasn't going to get the ball all the time. But when I needed to get the ball, Case got me the ball. And the offense was clicking. It was not happening under Kirk Cousins. And Kirk Cousins, say what you want. He has a great stats. Throughout his career, he's put up good and solid, sometimes even excellent numbers. The dude has one playoff victory. One. The dude has, over the past, I think, 5 years, been the most paid quarterback in the history of the league. Kirk Cousins has got the first ever fully guaranteed contract in the NFL, then the second ever fully guaranteed contract in the NFL after he resigned. Tell me how you do that. Look, we make the argument, Joe Flacco, as bad as he was, and he was bad a lot of those years, at least he got a Super Bowl. The Ravens, they were like, all right, Joe, you delivered a Super Bowl, here's your money. And Ravens fans, we were mad about him not producing after that. But at the same time, we were like, at least he got us there. At least we had that. And at least we know, like, Flacco in the playoffs can win most road playoff wins in NFL history. Kirk Cousins he only has one playoff win in the league. So, just to put a bow on the Kirk Cousins thing specifically, which I'm sorry, this irks me because there's so much talent out there. And I'm not saying Kirk Cousins can't be a winner on a team. I'm saying that team wasn't the Vikings, and he never should have been paid fully guaranteed money to begin with. That's my biggest gripe with Cousins. That's my biggest gripe with the Vikings. They had a team that went to the NFC Championship game. Yeah, they got blown out. That was not Case Keenum's fault. Blame your defense. Blame your scheming on defense. You couldn't stop Big Dick Nick and that offense. That's on you. That wasn't on Keenum. Keenum probably would have been a more cheaper option too, if we're being real. Case Keenum would have been a cheaper option. You would have been able to maybe sign a free agent or two to help stabilize that defense. Maybe give Stephon Diggs, a little more boost in his pay to make him happier in Minnesota. But nah, you hedge your bets on Kirk Cousins. What happens? Best player in your team leaves. Your defense starts to fall apart. McKinnon leaves. Adam Thielen, frustrated as all hell, probably going to want to get out this offseason if he can. So there were a lot of mistakes made in that offseason, and I'm telling you, if Case Keenum was the Vikings quarterback, they might not even win a Super Bowl. I'm not saying that. But they would be in a way better position to win than they are right now. And I know that had nothing to do. That had absolutely nothing to do with the Steelers. I said Kirk Cousins and I got triggered.
Nah, that's totally fine. For the record, we got two Big Dick Nick references, so we love to see it. And at the end of the day, you're absolutely right. I think the big thing too is if you keep Keenum for one more, even if you don't see him as your long-term option, you give him a short contract, 1, 2, 3 years. that kind of kicks the can down the road a little bit and keeps your options open, because you never know what's going to be available in a trade in this, hypothetical NFL world we're creating when Cousins doesn't sign with them. What if he stays in Washington? If he goes somewhere else, you just don't know. And you don't know, who's available, who's not available. I think that kicking the can down the road instead of settling on Kirk Cousins because he was available and because he was willing to go there, I think that would have really been good for them. Because you look at a lot of look at the Colts. It's the exact strategy that the Colts have taken. That they said, you know what? We don't need the elite quarterback right now. We're going to keep kicking the can down the road, and we're going to build the fundamentals of a great team. And when we're ready, we're going to go out and we're going to be aggressive in the market to find our guy. And so they put their chips in on Carson Wentz, and they still got kind of 1 foot out, 1 foot in on Wentz. They could still move on from him without a ton of issues because they absorbed him with their salary cap because they're a young team. But some good cap management and some quality talent evaluation. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the Vikings GM is like a genius or something, but he had a good team. They were a good, young, strong team back then. And, it just fell apart. But anyway, that has nothing to do with the Steelers. So why don't we?
But I will say this: Strike Blitz in the chat did say that Minnesota felt like they were a QB away and went for it with a guy who was overperforming with no receivers in Washington. And while that is true, the reality is they had a guy who got him to the NFC Championship game already on the team. And they chose to go with a guy who didn't win a playoff game, who at his best went 8-7-1. Look, I'm not gonna say that Case again. Not gonna say Case Keenum was like the future. It wasn't Kirk Cousins. Like Kirk Cousins was never the answer for that specific scenario.
And on that too, to get the last word in, like we all criticized that contract when they signed it too. Like I know we're gonna get the grass ain't always greener, 2020 vision kind of comments. Like
dude, $88 million that guaranteed, fully guaranteed for Kirk Cousins. I was like,
we all freaked out.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't even think the NFL could give out fully guaranteed. I thought that was against the CBA or some shit. Like
they still don't. Nobody's getting it.
And he's gotten it twice, bro. He's gotten it twice. He got re-upped like last year. How do you re-up him after he drove your best player out of town? Like, come on. He literally drove your best player out of town. He's driving your current best player in Adam Thielen out of town. And we need to stop. I'm gonna get heated about this.
All right, we're good. Let's keep moving. Make sure, guys, if you like the show, you take a look down below. You hit like and subscribe. Check us out on Twitter at Real Take Sports. Check us out on Patreon as well. Back to Major League Baseball. I got to get a prop for this one. We got my New York Metropolitans in the news with Tim Tebow retiring. Everybody laughed. Tim Tebow, you can't do this, you can't do that. He made it to AAA, a couple spring training invitees, a career 223 hitter in the minor leagues, 299, 338 with 107 runs scored to complete the slash line, 48 doubles, 3 triples, and 18 home runs for the former NFL QB. Tebow's statement on the matter. I want to thank the Mets, Mr. Alderson, the fans, and all my teammates for the chance to be a part of such a great organization. I loved every minute of the journey, but at this time, I feel called in other directions. I never want to be partially in on anything. I always want to be 100% in on whatever I choose. Thank you again for everyone's support for the awesome journey to baseball. I'll always cherish my time as Met. Hashtag Let's Go Mets. Look, at the end of the day, Tebow was a class act for this team. Tebow didn't take the celebrity route. He could have. People loved Tim Tebow. I will say what you will about him. People fucking love that dude. And like he's a good dude, he's a good role model. He carries himself well as a professional. And he didn't take the celebrity route. He put his head down and he did the minor league thing. And he gave it a genuine shot, and he just wasn't good enough. And that's okay. He doesn't have to be good enough. But I got all the respect in the world for Tebow. And I know he's going to head back over to ESPN. And he was doing that for a few years, right? He gave up on it for a little bit, but then went back to ESPN for their college football coverage. And I think that's where his calling is. At the end of the day, he's a good analyst. He's a legend in college football. And I think he can swim in those circles for the rest of his career and make a great career out of it. I wish him the best. Good luck to you, Mr. Tebow.
We can say what we want about Tim Tebow. Like, I know people think he's polarizing. He was never a good quarterback. Look at that. He never materialized into a major league talent. Ha ha ha. Like, there's gonna be a lot of assholes who come out and say that. But the fact is, everybody like it's obvious. Tim Tebow didn't have the talent to be a consistent NFL quarterback. Tim Tebow didn't have the talent to be a major league player. That's the truth. Even so, even after not playing baseball for, 8 years, or it might have actually been longer than that, over almost a decade of not playing baseball at all, the dude goes to the minor leagues, and, as a minor league player, he does decent. Like he does decent. He has some spurts of production. I'm sure the minor league stadium that he was playing at, like all those stadiums, did pretty well at the time that he was there. And their economy that locally got a boost, and that's probably good, right?
Shout out to the Binghamton Rumble Ponies.
Yeah,
I swear
Ponies.
to God, that's their name.
Go Ponies. But look, and I think you hit it right on the head. One thing that we can never deny about Tim Tebow is that he's going to give it his all. And that's, at the end of the day, you got to respect him for it. You have to respect him for it, because he's not, like you said, he's never going to be the guy who, takes all the credit. He's only going to be the guy who takes all of the blame when they lose. Like, he will put it on himself. That's why he's a great teammate. That's why even when he was putting up god-awful numbers in Denver, his teammates still came out and said, we loved him. Because he galvanized his team, and that was part of the overall magic of Tebow. And I want to talk about like his NFL magic a little bit, because it seems like this is kind of like the end of the athletic career of Tebow, and I feel like it would only do him justice to kind of just close the book overall on his career. But speaking strictly on his MLB career, I think that he proved a lot of people wrong, and he kind of, and I think in a way, he serves as kind of an inspiration, and I think he is an inspiration to a lot of people that, dude, go out there. If you want to play ball, if you want to play baseball, if you want to play whatever you want to do, go out there and give it a shot. Because Tebow is someone, like, if I'm Tebow, I had all the money in the world in the NFL as a first round pick, as an ESPN analyst. I'm Tim Tebow. I make a Super Bowl commercial. It's gonna make me millions of dollars, right? Like, he's an attraction. That's what made him, so special in the minor leagues. What made him so special in the NFL. But instead of that, he chose to follow his dream, and he said, "I have all these options, but I'm still gonna go, kind of like the humble route, and see if I can work my way up to the major league. If I can, I accomplished my goal. If not, I still accomplished my goal because I fucking tried." And that's going to be the legacy of Tim Tebow. Say what you want. He tried, and he outperformed expectations. And, there's this one thing I just want to show people, because now I want to shift over to the football side, because he was not a good quarterback, right? But when you look at his production in the one season he went 8-6. Basically, over the span of 2 years, he had 14 starts. Went 8-6, almost 1,000 rushing yards, 12 touchdowns, 17 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, 2,400 yards. Right, didn't blow people away. Didn't do like Peyton Manning, Pat Mahomes number. He was never capable of doing that. And that's just a reality. But the truth is, Tebow even while not completing 50% of his passes, did prove one thing. And that was, and I think, it's possible that he kind of laid a little bit of the groundwork, I think, for some of the quarterbacks we're seeing now. Because before Tebow, let's be clear, there was no sense of running a college-style offense, because that's what they ran in that 1 year in 2011 in Denver. They ran a college offense. They ran basically the offense he was running in Florida. But but you've seen running quarterbacks. Michael Vick was a running quarterback. They had a few designs, basic designs, right? But it was never read option specific. They never ran that type of thing in the NFL before Tebow. Even Kaepernick was a year after Tebow when that became even more popularized. And I think Kaepernick probably gets more credit, and rightfully so, for making it like a mainstay, because it was sustainable under Kaepernick, at least for those 3 years. And you saw that it could work, over a period of time. But Tebow, I think, was the guy and the quarterback who kind of brought that into the mainstream, as in he was the first one to really run that type of offense in the NFL. And if that's his legacy, I think that's a good thing to go by. And look, say what you want. Stephen A. can be disgusted by it as much as he wants. All Steelers fans can be disgusted by it. The dude threw for 316 yards in a playoff game, 3 touchdowns, won the first ever overtime playoff game under the new rules. In the history books, it's going to go down as Tebow, 1 play, 80 yards to the house of Demaryius Thomas. And look, again, didn't win the Super Bowl, didn't become a long-term starter in Denver, but the dude proved that he could do it. He went out there and he did it, and he won. He's 8-6. He could say that I'm a winning quarterback in the NFL. That's more than a lot of people can say.
Same so hats off to you, Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, and one more thing about Tebow Mania. Also in 2011 was fucking entertaining. It was so entertaining. Yeah. It was.
Should I get down and go Tebow?
Oh, dude, we all did that year when he beat the Steelers. But Tebow Mania was insane. That was there's something to it. You can't deny that there was something to it, whether it was him galvanizing his teammates or him literally just being a different player under pressure. I don't know what it was, but dude, all those fourth quarter comebacks, I think he had 5 or 6 that whole year, and it's insane. And again, hats off to him. Thank you for the memories. Disagree with you in all hell about your whole college football players and whether or not they should be paid. They definitely should, but hey, we love you, Tim.
We love you, Tim. They definitely should be paid. All right. Any final thoughts for us today, Omer?
We do have a few questions. Thank you, Strike Blitz, for asking. And if anyone watching has any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat, and we'll get to them. We have a question from Striker Blitz, and it is regarding one Timothy Tebow. Striker Blitz asks, think if Tebow switched to tight end, he would have had a better NFL career?
Maybe. It's a grass is always greener kind of deal, because it's kind of the same thing that you talk about with Lamar Jackson is should he play running back? It's the skills might fit better, but it's hard to say whether or not a dude can run routes, whether or not, because it's a whole different skill set. Can he run routes? Can he catch the ball consistently? Can he block? Is he, what kind of tight end is he? Does he have to learn the system from a whole new perspective? Can he take hits, running over the middle of the field? He's a big dude. He's a physical athlete. He's got good legs, but does he have good legs as an athlete, or does he have good legs for a quarterback? And I think that's what we get into this trap of, you see an athletic quarterback, move him to running back or move him to tight end, or he's big and white, so he could play tight end. But it's maybe
right,
it's really hard to say. And he didn't want to do it. The team didn't want to do it. So
it's weird because I think Tebow, I don't think he would have been a good tight end if we're being real. Did he have the muscle mass? Did he have he's kind of built for the position. But I just don't know if one, if his heart would be in it, obviously. That's the biggest thing. If he doesn't want to do it, he's not going to do it. And there's a reason he came out and said, I'm only a quarterback. because he didn't want to play any other position, and that's fine. But I don't think he probably would have been successful because like there's a lot of blocking schemes. You have to be very committed to do it, and someone like Logan Thomas on the Washington football team is probably the biggest like success story of this. Like a quarterback who was drafted into the NFL as a quarterback and switched to tight end for the Washington football team. And
what about Taysom Hill?
But he's not a tight end. I'm talking about like made the transition. Like that's what the question was, making the transition to a tight end full time. Taysom Hill is still like, he's a gadget player, right? But they still have him listed as a quarterback. He started games for the Saints this year, but I see what you're saying in that even. But I think like Thomas is probably a better example of this specific scenario because he's like I think he's gonna be one of the best tight ends in the league next year. Like what he showed with Alex Smith and Taylor Heineke down the line. Heineke. I think he's gonna be good, and he might be one of those tight end success stories. I just don't know if Tebow would have been.
I know you got Hines Ward and Julian Edelman. I mean, he's a receiver, but kind of same difference.
Yeah.
So there are a handful of guys who've made that switch, but it's hard to say.
Very hard to say. Okay, another comment. Tebow hit great at Binghamton. Makes you wonder if the guy went to Sam Marcija. I don't know what that is. Route out of school. He could have been. He could have been on MLB roster.
Maybe
it's possible if he's stuck with it.
Yeah, it's one of those things that like I said is hot baseball. It takes forever, and you gotta build that ability young, and guys don't jump into it at 20, 29, and it doesn't happen that way. He's at
muscle
the end
memory,
of his
man.
physical
Muscle
peak.
memory.
Yeah, so honestly anyone. If they're playing baseball at 18 or 19, or I guess he would have been drafted at a UF at like 21 or something. Like anyone could do it if you put the work into it. That's why the minor leagues exists. So yeah, he makes you wonder. That's a good observation. It's very possible, but
it's possible. But at the end of the day, he was just a better quarterback in college than anything else. So I mean, he took the right route.
It's the right choice.
The right choice. He's a Hall of Famer. In college. Don't worry, in college. Okay.
I get you. Don't worry.
A few more. In response to the Kirk Cousins contract thing that I freaked out about, insane. Remember the money that Osweiler got? I'm just saying it was a lot of money. It was a shit ton of money. I'm not gonna lie.
Osweiler got what? 472.
But in 1 year in Houston, he won a playoff game, and his contract wasn't fully guaranteed. Say what you want. Brock Osweiler was a worse quarterback than Kirk Cousins. I grant you that 100%, like no doubt in my mind. That contract though, and the end result of that deal, I don't think it was as bad as the Kirk Cousins thing long term for Minnesota, because Minnesota had a winner. Houston had a 8-8 team that didn't really change under him. Few more. Or actually one more, really. One more question, then we're probably good. Giants fan here. Would Daniel Jones, 2 first-round picks and a third, it done for Deshaun Watson? Johnny G.
Repeat the package for me.
The potential trade package. I'll repeat it. The potential trade package is Daniel Jones, 2 first-round picks, and a third. Would that be enough for the Giants, or for the Texans, rather, to trade away Deshaun Watson? And is that something the Giants would want to do? Resident Giants fan Johnny Gonzalez, go for it.
I would say in a vacuum, yes, that would be enough. But in practice, no. Because if that's available for the Giants, then the Jets are making the same deal with Darnold, and the league values Darnold higher. Does that make sense? Like, the Jets would make that exact deal to get Deshaun Watson if it was on the table.
Right.
And I think you would rather that deal from the Jets to get Darnold if you're the Texans than you would from the Giants to get Daniel Jones. Just because I think we saw this year, and I give Daniel Jones all the excuses in the world, but I think at the end of the day, what we saw this year is that the ceiling isn't higher with the floor might be higher for Jones, that he might settle into being a better player than Sam Darnold. But I think that Sam Darnold has the star potential that Daniel Jones doesn't necessarily have. And I think you'll see the Giants probably, be really into Daniel Jones and what he does this year. Because let's be realistic, it's a make or break year for Daniel Jones. Like, he's had his time in the limelight. Now it's time to get serious. I told y'all that I didn't want to criticize Daniel Jones yet because I thought that the Giants had, his receivers were dumpster fires and his offensive line was dumpster fires. Saquon got hurt and the defense was garbage. But the Giants have a real team now. Like, the Giants aren't a dumpster fire anymore. And it's time to put up or shut up if you're Daniel Jones. And if I'm the Giants, if that deal's available, obviously I take it. But if I'm the Texans, I think I could probably still get more, if I'm holding out. And, I think there's a whole lot of league politics surrounding Deshaun Watson that we can get into another day. But, I think it's a tough move and it's a good trade package, but there are probably better deals out there if the Texans are willing to really get uncomfortable. And I think they're really willing to get uncomfortable.
Yeah, look, there's a potential trade package that would involve a first-round pick in Jimmy G that's been floated around that I think, honestly, if we're being real, probably better. Look. Yeah, I don't know. Actually, I don't even know about that. It's weird.
It's tough.
It's weird. It's a weird position for the Texans to be in, too, because you also have to evaluate where the other team's going to be with Deshaun Watson as well. Are the Jets who's in a better position to win? With Deshaun Watson, is it the Jets or is it the Giants? And then those are two teams that I think are let's say with Deshaun Watson even I would say pretty evenly matched. I'm not gonna lie.
I'd agree. No, I'd agree.
The thing the Giants will always have that would probably make people think is the fact that they're in the NFC East and they have a higher likelihood with a bad record to maybe make the playoffs as the winner of that division. Like, they could go 7-9, win that division. They would have to win 7 games first. They haven't done that in a little while. But and then the draft pick skyrockets. Two Giants references.
Two 6-10 references. Okay, all right.
I'm just being real. Real Take Sports Talk. That's the show.
No, I get you.
But no, it's just how it is. It's just how it is. Last thing. Strike Blitz said, "Good cheering, boys. I found you on accident, but I'll be sure to be back." Hey, Strike Blitz, every Thursday, 8 p.m. Sometimes it'll change, but follow us on Twitter at Real Take Sports to find out when it does. We're going to start recording some exclusive content, some top 10s list. So we want to get first cracks at some of those coming up over the next few weeks. Be sure to start supporting us at patreon.com/Real Take Sports. Hey, for as little as $2 a month, become a member, become a patron. Hey, you want to help us out? More content is on the way. And I'm speaking that to anyone out there because this video is going to go out to whoever watches this. But, help us out. More videos, though, to come for the YouTube channel as well. I got some stuff coming on if anyone's a wrestling fan. WrestleMania is right around the corner. Be sure to check us out. We're going to start putting up wrestling videos as early as this coming week. Top 10s list. We're going to start a new show called Real Take Wrestle Talk that goes over a lot of the wrestling stuff going on in the league, in the world, and there's a lot to go over, so be sure to check us out for that. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new episode is released. Guys, thank you so much for listening to us. Johnny, I know I just stole your outro, but I just want to say it's good to have you back. 2 weeks in a row. First time we've done this in 2 weeks in a row with you in, I think, since November maybe. But
yeah, law school's tough.
Law school is tough, but we love you, man. Be sure to give Johnny, a little shout out every now and then, on his Twitter or whatever. He's a studying boy. He needs positivity. We love positivity on this channel, even though the comments are usually just full with negativity, but it be like that.
Man, positivity is great. I definitely need all the positive I can get, man. It's a tough world out there. Law school's tough. I cold called 5 judges today, didn't get a single response. So that's a beautiful thing. But you know what? I had a great time tonight. I appreciate the questions. I got some of my friends to watch today. I appreciate you all coming out. And, it's just fun to get on here and talk some sports, man. We don't do it for the money. We don't do it for the fame. We don't do it for the glory.
You don't do it.
Do it for money.
I can't. No, we don't do it for the money. We actually don't. We don't make any money. We still do it, so we're fine.
No, we just come out here and we talk some sports because that's what we like to do, and it's a fun thing to do. And if you enjoy listening, please listen, subscribe, comment, engage, hit us up, just and come enjoy sports with us. That's all we're asking for.
That's all we do.
Build a community with us. So anyway, this was a fun week, guys. It is time to go. We shouldn't start saying closing time or anything, should we? Be sure to join us again next week.
Time for Telly Night Night. Time for Telly Night Night. Anyone born pre 2000 will get that reference.
Be sure to join us next week. Make sure you hit down below, like we said, that like and subscribe button. Check us out on YouTube. We got lots of good content up. Be sure to check us out on Twitter at Real Take Sports Talk. Check us out on Patreon /Real Take Sports. Until next time, I'm your boy Johnny fucking G. That's Omer. Omer said bye to the peeps.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much for everyone who watched. Be back next week. Same time. Well, same time. Maybe different place. We'll see.
Have a good night, y'all. We out.